Italian Football Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Questions from the Italian Football Podcast Patrons, where you, our patrons, decide what the show is about by simply sending in your questions via email, DM on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, but preferably via DM on Patreon. We've done the Q&A a little bit different. We're publishing this on the Monday, as the Monday Mercato Deep Dive with Milan we're going to do got pushed back because first we're going to do it on Monday morning, and then Milan announced that Allegri is being unveiled to the press. We got a guest on. The internet was Italian, and I think you understand what that means. So we tried recording a bit of it, and it didn't do too well. So we rescheduled, and then all our plans got in
the internet. I should add, the internet at Milanello. Like this wasn't.
No, it was Casa Milan. This was a Casa Milan, wasn't it?
Or Casa Milan. Sorry, yeah. The internet at Casa Milan. So actually at Milan's headquarters.
Yeah. But it is what it is. But so all our player plans ended up in the shit house. So that's why we're doing the Q&A on a Monday. We'll get the Milan Mercato deep dive either by Wednesday, at some point Wednesday or Tuesday, Wednesday, whenever. But we'll try to get it as soon as possible because we have to reschedule everything, and it is the Mercato, and people are really busy. As you noticed, Carlo's there. So let's get into the first question, which has been sent in from Gianmarco, who's the modest, who says, "Hi guys, new member here, and thank you all for what you do. My question is, what one calcio moment that's etched in your memory that you'll remember it, even if you get concussed? Mine is Totti's penalty against Australia in the World Cup 2006. I was watching the game with my uncle and grandfather, may he rest in peace. I remember I was shitting my pants before Totti took the ball. My grandfather looked at me calmly and said, 'Don't worry, this guy's got massive balls.' If you remember that moment, the TV director gets a close-up of Totti's eyes focused before the penalty. I have that framed above my desk to this day. Thanks and cheers." Well, thank you so much for those kind words, Gianmarco, and rest in peace to your grandfather as well. And I have to say, that is an iconic moment as well. I remember it because to me, that's when Italy laid the groundwork to win the World Cup. Everything else just kind of fell in place after that. Totti's penalty is what really, for me, that's where the World Cup was won, essentially. And so I've got that there as well. But for me, Schillaci's eyes, 1990. Alessandro Nesta's eyes, Euro 2004, 2-2, when he finds out. It's lots of frames like this that I've got etched in my mind. But Barres is Baggio after crying after the semi-finals, after scoring twice against Bulgaria. The frame. I got quite a few images like that in my brain. What about you?
Yeah, national team, definitely. I mean, Italia 90, good and bad. Schillaci, Baggio's goal against Czechoslovakia, but also the penalty shootout loss. I always remember that. That gives me nightmares still now, crying in my mum's bed, my parents' bed after watching that. 94, again, Nigeria. I remember thinking we were out, and then Baggio scoring, and then the Bulgaria game, and then obviously the penalty miss, of course. There's all those moments that the kind of time stops. Baggio when he just put it wide against France in '98, and 2002, just that image of Byron Moreno, cheating us out of the World Cup, and then 2006, I was there. Obviously, the number one will always be the semi-final in Dortmund.
Yeah,
the Grosso goal.
Grosso.
I will never forget. I mean, I remember everything from that day, like in perfect detail. I remember everything just about that incident and what happened afterwards, and it was So there's that, and then the final, and just mainly Italy national team memories, the ones that are etched in my memory.
It was unbelievable. It was 2006. I just think of being in Berlin when Grosso scores that final penalty as well. That's also an iconic memory. I was at the Fine Mile with about 200,000 people. It was crazy. There's lots of memories for stuff like that for the national team. But the Totti, the image of Totti's eyes as well. It's such the camera director who did brilliantly to catch that moment. It was really, really good. Right, next question. Jamie Drum says, hi guys, my question for this week is build a starting 11 of players that played for your clubs that consist of one nationality but not Italian. For example, pick an Inter 11 consisting of 11 Brazilians that played for Inter. You can choose the nationality you want to use. That's going to be difficult because I don't think there's enough players, 11 players from one country in that many positions to do for Juve or Inter outside of Italians.
Yeah. We could try and get as many. I think for Juventus, probably France would be the easiest one to do. So have they? I'm not sure if they had a French.
Well, that's
goal.
what I'm saying. It can't be just one.
Landry Bonnefoy. I'm not sure he even played for you in goal. Then in defense, we could have Thuram, Kalulu. Any other French? Who else? French? Zabina. Let's have them as a back three, and then midfield. Deschamps, Platini, Kefren Thuram. Who else have we got? French players that played. Trezeguet up front. Who else from France? Who else did we have from France? You start doing Inter. I'm just trying to think who else from France that we had that was good for Juve.
I think it has to be Brazilians. It has to be because that's the. Yeah, I'm going to go with Brazilians. So, okay.
I think
so
South Americans. I think go South American for Inter.
Yeah. No, I'm going to go with Brazilians. So, Julio Cesar in goal. I'm going to play a 4-3-1-2. So, Julio Cesar in goal. Maicon on the right. Maxwell on the left. Lucio in the middle. Miranda in the middle. Then midfielders. I'm going to go with... I'm going to go with Hernanes. He played there. And then I'm going to go with Rafinha. I'm going to put in Felipe Melo because I'm running out of options. And then I'm going to put Coutinho as number 10 and Adriano and Ronaldo as the strikers up front. So there you go. Inter 11, 4-3-1-2 Brazilians.
Okay, I've cheated and I've had a quick look.
Yeah, so I had to cheat as well.
I've cheated. I did well without looking. Yeah. So in goal, Landry Bonnefoy. I don't even know if he ever played a senior game for Juventus. He was there for quite a few years. Then in defence, I'm going to have Lilian Thuram. I'm going to have Pierre Kalulu. I'm going to have Patrice Evra at left back. And let's go for that as a back three. And then in midfield, I'm going to have, how could I forget Zinedine Zidane? Yeah. Deschamps, Zidane. I'm going to go Kefren Thuram. And then, so that's 3 and 3. And I'm going to go ultra attacking. So, Paul Pogba as well. God, yeah. So Paul Pogba. So 3, that's the 4-man midfield. And then up front, we're going to go Trezeguet, Thierry Henry, and we need one more. Let's go Kingsley Coman.
Yeah. I'm going to swap Maxwell for Roberto Carlos because I can't believe I forgot him. But yeah, Julio Cesar, Maicon, and Roberto Carlos, 4-3-1-2. Carlos and Maicon on each side of the as fullback. Lucio and João Miranda as defenders. Then I'm taking Filippo Mele out. I'm putting in Zelias, who we had on the pod as well. And Hernanes. And who else did I have? I had Hernanes, Zelias. I can't remember who else. But yeah, I remember Coutinho, Adriano, and Ronaldo up front. Those are the ones I'm going with.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rafinha, Zelias, and Hernanes.
Did you say Laurent Blanc in defense?
No, why would I say Laurent Blanc? He's French. I'm doing Brazilian.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. Sorry, I've typed in French players at Inter Milan. Yeah, Brazilian players at Inter Milan.
Yeah. So I got Adriano, Ronaldo up front, Coutinho as the number 10, a midfield trio of Hernanes, Zelias, and what's his name? Just said his name, forgot. Rafinha.
No Vampeta.
Rafinha. No Vampeta.
See, this is where AI is so it's not ready to take all our jobs yet. So I've typed in Brazilian players for Inter Milan, and one of the options is Roberto Mancini. I remember doing this. Like about a month ago. I was trying to find if there'd been any foreign goalkeepers in Serie A during the 1980s. And it said there's only been 2 foreign goalkeepers in Serie A during the 1980s. And one of them, the AI said, was Michel Prudhomme. And which I knew he'd never played in Serie A. Which is so yeah. Don't trust AI for checking your football history. That's what I can say.
No. Make sure to double check yourself. Actually, I like my Brazilian Inter side. I mean, that midfield is Hernanes, Zelias, Rafinha, and Coutinho as a number 10 is actually solid. And not to mention my goalkeeper, Julio Cesar, Roberto Carlos Maicon, Miranda, and Lucio is really good. And up front, you got Adriano and Ronaldo R9.
You've got an incredible goalkeeper, an incredible defense, an incredible attack. The midfield is average. I'll be honest with you, very average. Yeah. It's average, the midfield. Well, compared to the defense and the attack, that's an average midfield. Yeah. And compared to Juventus, I mean, like that midfield against Juventus's French midfield, for example. But, yeah.
It's a good one. Yeah, but yeah, I like my team. It's a 4-3-1-2 of those guys. Anyway, Riccardo Benvenuti says, a few weeks ago, someone floated the idea on the Q&A that our retired Italian football should bless newborns in hospital. Bless them, please. That's thinking small. I say we go full Roman Empire on this. Let's initiate the Azzurri Avenger initiative. We'll assemble the greatest genetic football experiment in history. Del Piero, Totti, and Baggio, gods among men, will team up with elite Olympic sprinters to produce offspring with the agility of panthers and the ball control of ballet dancing cephalopods. Meanwhile, Chiellini, Bonucci, and Cannavaro will match up with indestructible women raised in frost-bitten trenches of mythical Eastern gulags. Why? Because we need defenders that don't slide tackle. They detonate on impact. Fast forward 25 years, a squad walks into the pitch, the opposition stares, one striker faints, the referee red cards himself for fears of injustice. Even the VAR system malfunctions under the sheer intimidation. On a serious note, what the hell happened to Spal? Is Spal expected to restart from amateur leagues, possibly from Eccellenza? It's a gut punch for fans of Italian football. Spal isn't just a club, it's a symbol of Ferrara's identity. With a history going back to 1907, I see them going to see them go from Serie A just a few years ago to this is tragic. I'm an Inter fan, but I also have my roots in Ferrara, and my brother played in the youth squad there before migrating to Australia. Yeah, basically, Joe Tacopina has pulled out, you could say. I mean, I've not seen anything official, but I've not spoken to him for a while. But I think he got, I don't know what it is, but yeah, he Spal is basically restarting again from scratch. It's a shame. It really is a shame because that project should not have gone the way it did. It's a shame it did go like that. But I would love to have Joe on, and I'm actually going to contact him to have him on and see if he's at liberty to talk about it and explain what happened. So I don't want to say too much about it, but yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame it went the way it did. It really is. It really, really is. And also Armando Picchi, the legendary Inter captain of La Grande Inter, he played for Spal. Spal is it's an important part of Italian football. Right, yeah. Next question. Sean Doherty says, good day, chaps. Hope you're both doing well. I know it's only the early of July, but any word on the UK TV rights? I asked because One Football was a trial and see how we go situation. Since then it came out that they were showing the DFB. They could run a paid service as the rights for the UK are up in Germany, whilst there is seemingly no one in German rights yet. And One Football could technically get both. I just wonder what the word is from yourselves and the youths of Bedford. Well, the youths of Bedford, I don't know what they're doing. I haven't heard. Maybe the youth offenders is closed over the summer, or whatever they do there.
It's always open. It's always open.
Sure, it is. But it's on DAZN, isn't it? Now in the UK,
yes,
isn't it?
It is.
It's TNT and DAZN, isn't it?
Correct. TNT are going to continue to show 2 games a week, or match day. And the rest is basically being taken over by DAZN from One Football. And this was announced towards the end of last week. So if you want full details, and I don't think they've released everything on exactly how it's going to go, but if you Google it, DAZN Serie A TV rights UK, you will get you'll get the information. So yeah, it is going to be DAZN. Yeah.
Cool. Nice one. Next question comes from Mahan. He says, "Hi, dear Nima and Carlo. Due to the recent war in Iran and the internet blackout that followed, I haven't been able to listen to the recent episodes, so I'm not sure if you already discussed what I'm about to ask. In the past few weeks, Al Hilal's board officially announced that they'd reached an agreement with Inzaghi even before the final in Munich. I know it's not illegal, but from an ethical point of view, it doesn't feel right, and I think it had a real impact on the players' morale. Honestly, if the team had been in the right mindset, even if they played Paris 100 times, they wouldn't have lost like that, not by 5 goals. I believe Marotta is also partly to blame, because if he had renewed Inzaghi's contract earlier and on a multi-year basis, none of this would have happened. So I wanted to ask, do you guys also think that the Inzaghi Al Hilal negotiations played a role in how Inter lost the final? Because honestly, there's only one Mourinho in this world, and no one will be like him ever again. Also, I have a feeling that Inter will seriously struggle to qualify for Europe this season, and that Christian Kiewel won't even survive the first half of the season." I think, I think the way that things are going, I expect, like I said last week, I revert back to what I said last week. Christian Kiewel, I would be surprised if he survives past December at this point. He doesn't have any experience as a coach, and if coaching experience didn't matter, Andrea Pirlo would have won the Scudetto with Juve. He didn't. So if it's only quality on the pitch that matters, so no, coaching absolutely matters. Christian Kiewel has what, one or two seasons with the Primavera and 13 Serie A matches more than Andrea Pirlo, who barely had his coaching badges, but the point still stands. And also we don't know how the squads are going to look. So
generally, yes, it's a massive gamble going for a young coach for such a big team with such a big changing room, for sure. But it can work both ways. You do get some coaches that are phenomenons without any experience. Obviously, Pep Guardiola is the biggest example of that, and there are many others as well. But of course, at the same time, there are many examples of coaches who are just not ready for a big job like Inter. And Thiago Motta is probably the best example, a better example than Pirlo. Pirlo was just insanity. That was just suicide. That was a suicidal appointment. That was a shot in the dark. That's
exactly what Christian Kiewel is. Thiago Motta
Christian Kiewel, at least he's had some time, spent some time with the Primavera. He knows the
Thiago
players.
Motta had a full season with Bologna and did well. He had other experiences as well. Christian Kiewel literally has zero experience. 13 matches with Parma. No, that's precisely the point. He's not ready. I don't think he's ready. The squad can be as good as it wants, but if you don't have a coach that's tactically good enough to handle this, then you're not going to do well. It's really that simple. If coaches didn't matter, we wouldn't, then we wouldn't pay us. Then they wouldn't. You put any Tom, Dick, and Harry off the street in charge of the teams, but you don't do that. So it is a shot in the dark, and Marotta is partly to blame. And I think I discussed this last week when we were talking about the inter-civil war, most of the things. As for Inzaghi, yes, he did, and as I said at the time, he did. His legacy has been hurt at Inter. The way that he left was not good, but again, they're all to blame for this. And Marotta is one of them. Inzaghi is one of them. It is what it is. It's a reboot, and hopefully Kiewel can manage to get Inter into the top 4, or else Inter is in a world of shit. It's that simple, It's really not harder than that. It's I don't know if they'll struggle to qualify for Europe, but Champions League is a concern, yeah. But we'll have to wait and see until the Mercato's over. We'll have to wait and see who stays, who goes, what happens. But it is a concern. It's a big problem. It's a big cause for concern. But we'll have to wait and see. Now they have 20 days or 15, 16 days to get the Mercato sorted before they go into their pre-season at Pinetina to see where they go from there. And hopefully they're prepared for that and they have something to do. Otherwise, it's going to be a very, very long and horrible season for Inter. Next question comes in from Daniel Ljungström. He says, if Milan was all about Leao and Inshallah in attack under Pioli, should Juventus defense be the equivalent to Di Gregorio and Inshallah under Tudor? Jokes aside, I think it's unbelievable that Juve seems to prioritize the attack again. Osimhen, Sancho, etc. I know it's still early days, but I think Juve should focus pretty much all their attention to fix the backline. In my book, the club needs 2 major upgrades there. You build winning teams from the back, yet again, the club seems to ignore the issue. And on a similar note, we have a question from Missak, who says, what we've learned from these games in the Club World Cup should have shaped the Juve Mercato and strategies, but the signs are they're going in the opposite direction, in my opinion. Signing Jonathan David, close to signing Jadon Sancho, getting Colomwani and Osimhen when they have Lord Kelly, Savona and Rugani. Then again, when you look at the quality they have in the forward department, it is tragic. I know Carlo loves Chico Conceição because he beats his man, but the kid has no IQ nor the ability to look for his teammates. The rest of the defense being in shambles is tactical or technical in your opinion? I point this out after Di Gregorio had to make a gazillion save in the last 2 matches in the Club World Cup. Now to the Rugani point, he can be a decent 6th choice centre-back, but Juve already has Gatti, who should be doing that, as he has shown not to be of the quality to start at Juve, playing a role as a reserve but not as a starter. Mediocrity breeds more mediocrity, as we've seen in the last half of a decade. Cheap salary, no complaints, was a decent against Real Madrid. Gatti and Kalulu are a backup standard at Juve. Cabal, if back to normal, is a backup at left centre-back. So this team has like 7 defenders and 5 of them are backup quality at best. Some shouldn't even be backups. Looking at you, Lloyd. Juve should sell one of Gatti or Rugani. It will be Rugani. In my opinion, they also have to loan Savona. He's not going to be playing, shouldn't be playing at a potentially competitive Juve. This decision should be made by the end of the market when they've already made the moves. And now who are the ones part of the team? Then they've got 2 centre backs that are complete, both for the left and right side. Leoni and Songo would be perfect to complement the idea of Tudor having 1v1s all over the pitch, meaning the quality of your defenders will be exposed to the purest level. I know it's a bit clearer, but I think it's fundamentally important to actually be competitive for God's sake for the first time in 5 years. Let's start with the Jadon Sancho thing and go through that because they kind of both touch on the same thing. What do you make of Jadon Sancho to Juve?
I don't understand it, to be honest, because look, Jadon Sancho is a wide player, and Juventus under Tudor, Tudor's system has been a 3-4-2-1 or a 3-5-2. That's what he used at Juventus. That's what he's used before. That's what the squad has been kind of, well, seems like that's what they're trying to construct it towards. So to sign Sancho's not going to be able to play in this system. So if you're signing Sancho, then what does that mean? Does that mean that someone needs to ask this question? Some of the Juventus journalists that go to press conferences need to ask this question. I'm sorry, it's pissing me off that nobody asked the most obvious question about Jadon Sancho. If you're signing Jadon Sancho, does that mean we're going back to a 4-3-3? We're going back to a winger system? No one has asked this question, and it's the most obvious question about this. So from that point of view, if they're bringing in Jadon Sancho and they're playing a 3-4-2-1, it's just absolute insanity. Like, what is the thinking behind it? You know, I'm ready to call this club just to give up on this club altogether. If they sign Jadon Sancho and stick with a 3-4-2-1, it's just absolutely insane. If they sign Jadon,
can play in the wide in a 3-4-3. I mean, he can.
Yeah, but I'm talking 3-4-2-1 here. You know, 3-4-2-1 is the system they play. 3-4-2-1 is the system they play. So I mean, it's insanity. If they signing Jadon Sancho because they're not going to sign Chico Conceição either, absolute insanity. Has anybody watched Jadon Sancho since he left Borussia Dortmund the first time? What has he done? He's been flop after flop after flop. Bad attitude off the pitch. Awful. Slow. Doesn't really beat his man. I mean, he's a good close ball dribbler, but he doesn't really have when I say beat his man with pace. You know, he's good over like little short periods. I mean, I'm not saying there isn't a player there that could come out. There is. We saw it at Dortmund. There is quality there, but he's somebody that's done nothing over 4 years. He's got a high salary. Now, I have no problem with signing Sancho. I mean, I was kind of hoping that Juventus would sign him last year. I have no problem with signing Sancho if you're playing a winger system, if you need him. But if Juventus are going to sign Sancho and get rid of Chico Conceição, yes, okay, maybe his final ball, his IQ, yeah, maybe that those are things that can be improved. But his raw qualities are absolutely fantastic. This is someone that beats players. I've seen him do it. We've seen him do it for Portugal in big matches just recently in June. You know, this is a player with a very high ceiling, with the right coach and the right players around him. I think he can become something really special, Conceição. to give up on him, like Juventus give up on players all the time, like they gave up on Sule, like they gave up on Huijsen, like they give up on players all the time. When they can sign Conceição for 30 million with a lower salary, and then they sign Sancho instead for 25 million on a higher salary, it's insanity. I mean, maybe they'll buy both of them. I don't know, but I want to see. I want to see where he fits in, what system he fits in, and if signing Sancho means you don't sign a player that you need more desperately, which Missak talks about, i.e. sorting out this damn horrendous defence full of defenders that are just not up to standard. So, and Juventus need fullbacks. They need a right wing back. They need at least one, probably two centre backs. And then what they're going to go and spend 25 million on Sancho, somebody for 4 years has been showed us nothing for 4 years.
But Juventus have lots of holes and problems, and I think that what Giuntoli said last season is kind of what they have to start doing now, and that is they're going to have to build long term. They're going to have to. They need a couple of windows to repair everything, and I think that's the key here. I think the thinking behind Jadon Sancho is that he's more of a system player, is more disciplined in terms of working in a system than Chico Conceição, who is all flair but not very system-based and doesn't seem to function in a system. Or they just need options, and they want to be able to play a 3-4-3. They want to be able to play a 3-4-2-1. They want to be able to have options in wide areas, because Kenan Yildiz isn't exactly a wide area player either. So, I think it's one of those things. But at the same time, the defense is an issue. But I think that with that's why I keep hammering that it's weird to be in this situation. But given where we were at the end of last season, that Napoli and Milan especially Napoli, are in a really good place, because they've got the most continuity, they've got the most to build from, whilst Inter and Juve especially are very, very up in the air and don't have a lot of money to spend as well. So it's an interesting one for sure. But I do think that I think Juve are basically thinking, let's get the attack sorted, the midfield is sorted. We sorted that last year. Now we need to then, maybe in January or wherever, if they can sell players and where they are, then do something about the defense. I think they're going to have to take it step by step like this. But yeah, it is a concern. It is a concern, and the fact that they can't seem to get their shit together is a problem.
They don't even have a sporting director. I mean, we're pushing towards the middle of July and they don't even have a sporting director. What
they
hope
do?
Is there?
What's his name?
Don't have a sporting director.
Well, he is the sporting director.
No, they don't have a sporting director.
What's his name? Damien.
Come on, he's not the sporting director. He's overseeing. He's not the sporting director. He's doing more than one job. That's a recipe for failure. It's been proven time and time again in every club. Manchester United, Milan last season. You've got to have a dedicated sporting director to take charge of transfers. Juventus don't have one. You can't have somebody that's overseen everything. And they know that, Juventus. They're looking to appoint a sporting director. But they've left it too late. And now, as a result, the transfer market is all over the shop. It's a mess.
It is a mess. It is a mess. But to answer the other questions, I mean, they did kind of raise other issues about the defense. And the Lloyd Kelly thing, I will go to my grave and I will not understand that signing as long as I live. I don't. The amount of money paid for it, of all players, English players, to play for Juve, and for that kind of, I don't understand that. I will never understand that deal for as long as I live. I don't get it. I really.
You know what? I can share this now. I was told by someone who knows a number of coaches at Newcastle that when that transfer went through, they were laughing. The Newcastle coaches, these are like first team coaches, were laughing to somebody that I know, and I've seen the messages, by the way, were laughing about Jadon Sancho, about Lord Kelly, that they sold him for like 23-24 million. And these are coaches that coach him every single day. They were like laughing their head off. They were like, what the hell? Like, are Juventus absolutely insane? Like, we basically robbed them blind. Daylight robbery. Like they were pissing themselves. They were mocking Juventus and mocking like the fact that they paid all that money. But anybody could see that. It's one of those transfers where every single football fan could see it was just a joke. It was like Emerson Royale was another one. Anybody that had watched Tottenham for the last 2 or 3 years could tell you this was just a joke. And yet the club still went ahead and did it. And Lord Kelly, everybody could tell you this is just a ridiculous. It's just, what is this? Some kind of, is this some April? Is it April the 1st? You know,
I don't understand it. I don't understand
the money as well.
I want to. Yeah, well, that's the thing. I want to know who was behind this. Did someone propose him? Like, who did the scouting? Like, how did this come about?
Juventus were desperate for a centre back because they were gutted in defence. You know, because they'd had all those.
Well, I remember that, but for that money, Lloyd Kelly.
But then somehow it ended up being that they despite having 4 months to prepare for the 3 months, 4 months to prepare for the January market, because you know, Bremer had got injured and Cabal had been injured like 3 months before January, end of the January window. So they had so long to prepare for it. Yeah, they just ended up in January having done nothing, seemingly, and then ended up panicking and spending, I don't know what the hell they were thinking. Insanity.
It's insane. I will go to my grave not understanding this, because it just makes no sense to me. Like, who proposed it? Who thought it was a good idea? Who did the scouting? Who looked at, like, do you know what I mean? Like, I need to, like, I don't understand how that came to be. Like, there's so many instances and levels that this had to have passed through for this to occur, and the fact that it did is just.
No, it sums up.
I don't get it.
That is, I think that the Lord Kelly, probably together with Dean Huijsen, because you can kind of combine the two together. It sums up the Juventus banter era of the last 5 years. That's what it does. It in a microcosm, it sums up everything about what shambles this once great club has become.
I mean, you look at Huijsen, you look at De Winter, you look at Hans Nicolosi Caviglia, you look at Sule, you look at Rovella, I mean, these are all Juventus players. They should all be at Juve. Like, seriously.
Yeah, you can go on and on.
I mean, it's like you had the solutions in-house, you got rid of all of them, even when they did well on loan. Like,
and the next one will be Conceição, will be the next one they regret. Watch him in 2 or 3 years' time. If they get rid of him, you've got to be able to see the raw qualities in a player. If you know, Dan and Doy is a good example. Like, he had no end product, he had no IQ a year ago, but you can see his raw qualities that he had that, with the right coach, can be developed into a top player, and that's what he's becoming now. You know, Conceição, you can't deny the raw qualities there. Yeah, they're undeniable.
The low center of gravity, the drop of the shoulder.
Maybe he might not become that top player. And if he doesn't, I'm sure he'll become a player of some repute, and Juventus can just sell him and make money for him. So they're not going to lose out. If Juventus just to conclude, if Juventus replace Conceição with Sancho, it's ridiculous. I mean, I hope Sancho's a success, and I think he has enough qualities there.
I was going to say, I like Jadon Sancho. I think he works.
If you're doing this logically, it's a stupid decision to make after 4 years of flopping. He's been a flop for 4 years, ever since he missed that penalty against Italy. Been a complete flop. One of the biggest flops in the history of Man United. He was average when he went back to Dortmund. He was awful at Chelsea last season. It's been flop after flop after flop. And you're going to replace Conceição with him? I mean, it's a gamble that could work. I'm not saying it can't, but I'm just saying it's just something you just don't do.
It doesn't induce one with a lot of positivity and hope. That's for sure. Right. Next question comes from Roberto Vacca. He's got 2 questions. Are we there? Are there any dual nationality Italians playing anywhere between Bedford to Antarctica that you could have heard of that could be considered to be help the Italy national team? I saw one playing for St. Albans City last season. He's 29, so nearly old enough. And then he asked me for restaurant recommendations in Stockholm, which I sent him in private because he was going there last weekend, so we don't need to go through that. But I mean, I don't think the issue is we need to go quite there yet. I think we need to Italy could have sorted out a better coach than Gattuso, even though I do respect Gattuso and I think he's a decent coach. I just don't think that situation should have gone that far for him to be appointed. To be honest, that's the more situation. That's where I am with that. Next question, Vito Campanelli says, "Hi guys, with the extra money Inter made in the Club World Cup, is there any indication that any of that money is going to be added to the market budget?" No. The transfer and budget has been made. They paid off, they refinanced and paid off the bond by transferring the bond situation to becoming a more traditional loan, lowered the interest rate, lowered the sum owed, and Inter came in with lots of money from their own pocket that way. They lowered it by 60-70 million, the sum, and of course lower interest rate and so on and so forth. And that's how Inter are going to do. And also, if Dumfries and Hakan Çalhanoğlu leave and they bring in players at lower wages, younger as well, that's where it is. So no, there's not going to be any more, there's not going to be any extra money made and into the budget. They're going to. This is a cost cutting enterprise now, and what that means for the pitch remains to be seen. Next question, Stelios Karakasi says, "Dear Nima and Carlo, first of all, thank you for the great company you keep, for the insight, the laughs, and the courage of your opinion. I'm enjoying every pod, and I will always remember the time when a Roma blogger tried to assassinate Donald Trump. You, of course, swept that conspiracy under the carpet, being executive members of a worldwide culture cabal, like when Pietro Pablo Virdis tried to kill Ronald Reagan. Me, a Milan fan since '88, and my co-host, Roma fan to the bone, have a soft spot for this Bologna team. We talked about it on our pod, which is the best Greek podcast about Italian football. Well, it's the only one. So the question, do you think that in the next few years, Bologna are capable of doing an Atalanta? Meaning, can you see Bologna fighting for European places constantly in the near future? They keep selling the best players, but there seems to be a pattern here. I wish they do that. Italian football needs new strong teams, like it needs their powerhouses to be powerhouses. Thank you again. And if you ever happen to be in Greece, please let me know. You already have to buy me the beers I've spilt while listening to you fight about Allegri. And now that I'm thinking about it, with Mad Max again at Milan, I should have never made the Casa de Papel poster with Max as Turin. Keep up the great work. It means a lot to our tribe." Well, thank you.
Oh, was that him? I remember that. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Do you remember that? I remember that. That was brilliant. That was.
I remember it.
I've just Googled Pietro Paolo Virdis, Ronald Reagan. I'm so gullible.
Reagan, yeah. But he's joking about that.
I was just saying it because the reason why, because I remember there was an April Fool's joke in the late 80s that Maradona had impregnated Madonna. and everybody fell for it. Like, I think all the Italian media fell for it. So I was wondering whether it was one of them.
I have to say though, the Violi hoax is one of the greatest.
It's one of the greatest stories of all time. It's top 5. It's Italian football stories ever.
It is, and the fact that, and we had the guy who did the hoax on the pod, so you can check it out. It's just so, I still can't believe that actually happened. So as for Bologna fighting for Europe, I actually think,
can I just say, just on hoaxes, by the way, in 2008, right, when I was at goal.com, when it was, because we always used to do an April Fool's joke back then, and it was usually me that did it. I've always been a bit of a prankster, and so I did an April Fool's joke on April the 1st. About a week before April the 1st, this happens every single year, that FIFA start moaning about countries' FAs or the governments of countries meddling in football matters, and they threaten to ban them because the FIFA laws say that the country's governments are not allowed to interfere with football. So this happens at least once a year, basically. This happens. And back then, about a week before, they were complaining about Spain. The Spanish government was meddling in Spanish football. So, Blatter threatened to chuck Spain out of Euro 2008. So that was my inspiration. So I did an April Fool's that Spain had been chucked out of Euro 2008, and they'd been replaced by England. right, who obviously didn't qualify for Euro 2008, right? So I printed the story. I'd made up fake quotes for Blatter and everything, made it sound really believable. And it went viral and went all around the world. And honestly, there was so many newspapers and websites that were publishing it as fact all around the world. It got on the front page of the biggest newspaper in Malaysia. It was in Australia on like the national news on Australia. It got everywhere that England had been put back into the Euros at the expense of Spain. So that's my little hoax that went global.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that.
And then Spain ended up winning it. I jinxed it. Spain ended up winning the Euros.
Yeah. As for Bologna, look, they're kind of doing that. If you remember when Atalanta, when Gasperini was there in the beginning and they did really well, they started selling players and then they rebuilt their stadium, and then they continue to do deals like that, and that's how they were able to be in a position where they bought players like Retegui and stuff, and Ederson and stuff like that. I think we're kind of almost there with Bologna. I think if they continue to sell off I know they're refurbishing their stadium and make it more modern. I think we're not far off that they'll be able to do that. Obviously, they don't have the same structure in place, but they do have the guy who kind of oversaw that in Sartori running it. So I don't think we're far off. I think they could do something similar to that. And they're a bigger club, they're a bigger city, they have a bigger fan base. So it would be, I would like if Bologna did that, actually. I think it would be really nice to see. It's nice to see these medium-sized, smaller clubs punch above their weight. So I wouldn't be surprised if Bologna went down that route and actually did it successfully. So we'll have to wait and see. I think they're kind of halfway through that to reaching that point. But it's going to be interesting to see how it goes for Atalanta as well as in Italiano this season at Bologna and Atalanta, for sure. Next question, Jack Hacken says, hi Neiman Carlo, got some incoherent thoughts for the pod. Empoli unfortunately have been relegated, I know, but what I find comforting in the relegation is the fact that a lot of their Italian talents will depart for younger teams. Fazzini, Marianucci, Vitti. I just find it remarkable that a small club from Tuscany can do all that while at Torino, Lazio, Parma, Udinese basically all say piss on Italian players in our youth. And now that I think of it, Kivo as Inter coach is like having a rabbit as your personal limo driver, I swear to God. And is the pizza margarita the ultimate measurement of a pizzeria's quality? I don't. Yeah, I mean, as for the pizza question, I don't know. It depends on. Yeah, I suppose you could say that.
It's classic, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. For me, it's all about the San Marzano tomatoes. I mean, how good they prepare them and how well.
Tomatoes. I love how you say tomatoes.
Yeah,
like an American.
Yeah,
tomatoes.
As for the Kivu thing, I already said it. But yeah, as for Empoli being, it is nice to see, isn't it? Like Empoli continue to do this with giving Italian young players a chance. It makes me happy. It really does. And I hope that they return to the Serie as soon as possible.
Yeah, agreed. And the number of kind of like the fact that Empoli are producing most of our young Italian talents, like of the current batch, that they went down. I don't know whether I should be happy that they're playing them or concerned that they went down despite having what's supposed to be our best young talents. Do you know what I mean? Like for me, it's kind of a bit concerning. Like, well, this is the team that plays the young talents, and these are supposedly, this is the team that's actually producing or playing the young talents, yet they've still got relegated. So are our talents not good enough? Or I don't know. That
is the two-edged sword, and that's something that I've always brought up. Like, yeah, okay, but if you look at the ones who have played them, well, the results aren't there. But it is, at the end of the day, you have to give young players a chance in order for them to succeed. I mean, it's that simple, really. In order for them to fail and learn.
Probably with Empoli, they had too many youngsters, too many young Italians all at the same time.
Yeah,
that they probably needed to. They needed a few more. They had a very young team, didn't they? They probably needed a few more experienced heads. And I think losing Ismaili killed them as well. I don't think they would have gone down. If Ismaili had been fit the whole season, I think they would have stayed up.
We'll see. Yeah, that's an interesting point. So yeah, it's a difficult one. Next question, Giuseppe Di Benedetto says, Ciao Niman Carlo, hope you're both well, having an enjoyable summer. I've got a few questions for you. I really dislike the obsession with international tournaments, always choosing kickoff times that work best for Europe. This Club World Cup will have the semi-finals and final with local kickoff times at 3 p.m. whilst the hottest time of the day, which is the hottest time of the day, rather than local prime time of 9 p.m. when the temperatures are cooler. The same bullshit will be deployed next year for the real World Cup. I just feel they should choose kickoff times that work for the host nation and then allow the best environment for the players. Fans will wake up or stay up if they are committed enough or if the match is big enough. We all did it for the 2002 World Cup in Korea and Japan. What are your thoughts? And the second question is, are the returns of past Serie A stars Immobile, Bernardeschi and Insigne to Serie A teams after their adventures abroad another bad sign for the status of the Serie A? Immobile did well in Turkey, but Bernardeschi and Insigne were bust for MLS and more locker room headaches than anything. Thank you for your entertaining my questions. Grazie mille. Well, the first part of that question, it's because the European broadcasters pay the most money, and so that they decide the times, really. That's just as simple as it gets.
Yeah, brings back memories, doesn't it, to 94 World Cup when they were playing the games at just like...
I stayed up all that summer.
Yeah, Sweden played Brazil, I remember, really late at night, like
2-3 a.m. kickoff.
Yeah, I remember that. Because Italy had played before.
Yeah.
I think earlier in the day.
Yeah.
Or it might have been the day before. I can't remember, but I remember Italy had already gone through, and then.
Yeah.
And yeah, I remember.
I remember that 94 World Cup.
I remember like the weather was so different. I remember that Steve Staunton, the Irish player, got burnt during the national anthem, like because he's one of those typical like redheads,
tasty Irishman.
Yeah, typical like Irish kind of redhead, pale skin, and he got burnt during the national anthem. He was only out there for like a minute, and he got burned. And I remember Jack Charlton going ballistic because he was trying to give players water, and him and do you remember John Aldridge swearing live on TV, like effing and blinding, because it was brilliant. Yeah, so that will be a big challenge during the World Cup. Obviously, we hope we're there. We probably won't even be there, but that will be a challenge for nations, and that will benefit the nations that are used to it. So I think like Brazil, Argentina will have a big, and we've even seen that to an extent in the Club World Cup. Like some of the Brazilian teams have definitely performed over their ability in this Club World Cup because they've been used to the temperatures. And at the World Cup, I think it's going to affect. I think it's going to affect England. Like England have the players, but they're not.
This is why I think Spain or Brazil are winning the World Cup. I think I don't see Argentina doing it anytime soon again. I don't think France. I think France will be thereabouts. But for me, it's Brazil or Spain. To be honest, I think this is partly the reason why I think this plays into both of their hands.
The teams that can handle the climate are going to have definitely going to have an advantage, especially when you go later in the tournament, bigger World Cup, but also teams that can keep the ball. That teams that are going to run a lot might actually benefit Italy in a weird way if we can get there, because we're not renowned for being pressing is going to be very difficult. You're not going to be able to press
in heat like that. You can't
after a long season. At the end of the season, without no rest for 5 years, you can't press like maniacs and run and sprint. Drugs won't work either. So I mean,
well, less said about that, the better. As for the returning Serie A stars, Immobile, Bernardeschi, and Insigne, look, I don't think it says anything about the Serie A. I'm just glad that they're coming back to hang up their boots at a small, at clubs. It's nice to see them back. Although I would have loved to see Insigne not play for any other club but Napoli. But other than that, I think it's whatever. I think it's nice to see them. One last hurrah. Insigne, Bernardeschi, Immobile.
Yeah, I think the motivation of players when they go to the North America is always going to be questioned if you've already played at a very high level in Europe. And I think with Insigne and Bernardeschi, I don't know, maybe that played part of it. And Immobile was old though in Turkey, and I think he did all right. And he still had a decent goal tally. Yeah. He was playing for a team that wasn't at the level of Fenerbahce or Galatasaray. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. Next question. Nate S says, loving the pod. Thanks for all the wonderful content. My question is, Milan seem to be having a revolution, seemingly like to get a whole new midfield, new fullbacks, new striker, not to mention a new coach and sporting director. It's looking like some really positive moves are being made. Can we expect a resurgence and great outcomes for next season, or is it too much change and they'll need a settling in period before we see results? Make sure to check out, by the time you listen to this, we will have hopefully recorded the Milan Mercato deep dive with Alessandro Jacobone. But make sure to check that out. It should be out on Wednesday by the latest. As for Milan, I don't expect Milan to be fighting for a Scudetto this season. I think that's too optimistic. I think Milan have to look at finishing in the top 4 and then from there on pushing forward. I don't think Allegri's that kind of a coach who, like Conte, obsesses over games in the same way. He's a fantastic coach, but he's a different kind of coach. But having said that, they're not in Europe. One competition a week, that does give them rest, and it does give Allegri time. And I think this Milan project will have more time because of the fact that it's a reboot completely. Now they actually have a sporting director. They have a coach with an identity, with a clear, it was a big name coach, and so on and so forth. So we'll see. We
have to see what they do in the window. It's
too soon.
Too soon. I mean, there is a big turnover, and there's always risk involved with big turnover. We saw that with Juventus last season. That regardless of how many big players or supposedly big players and money that you spent, like Juventus did, when you have a big turnover, there's always a risk. And so with Milan, that's a lot of players, probably half of the first 11 maybe would have been changed by the next season, and so many squad players as well. So that's a gamble. We don't even know what formation we're playing. Actually, we spoke to Alessandro Jacobone. We asked him that question before we had to stop the interview because the internet wasn't good enough. We actually asked him what formation Milan will be playing. So here's a little sneak peek of that. And he said that nobody knows what formation Milan are going to be playing. So there you go. So there's that question. And then who do they bring in? Who are the players that they bring in? We know that Richie's there. We know that Modric is definitely going to happen after the Club World Cup. But apart from that, we don't know who the striker's going to be. We don't know if Yashari or someone else comes in at midfield and how good he'll be, what defenders they bring in, who replaces Teo Hernandez. Will Leao and Mike Magnon stay? It looks like it at the moment, but we'll see. So there's a lot of
moving parts. There's a lot of moving parts. Next question. André Barilaro says, hi guys, some ex-players have shocked everyone by turning into top-tier managers. Simone Inzaghi, De Zerbi, and even Kivu, the mascot, to a point. Which former players have surprised you most by becoming great coaches? And on the flip side, who did you expect to thrive as a manager but never gave it a shot or completely flamed out? Is there a how has he not coached yet shortlist? Thanks for the brilliant pods and congratulations on the collaboration with PL11 Entertainment. Thank you so much, Andrea. Players that have shocked everyone by turning into top-tier managers. I don't know. Who surprised you that became a top-tier manager?
I don't know about that, but what I would say that some managers have shocked me with their playing styles, having seen them as players.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
When he started was because he was such a flair player, and then he turned out to be a very defensively minded first coach before he had this renaissance. He
changed though, didn't he?
Yeah, he changed. He went to City. And
now he's more reflective of what he was.
As a manager. It was a player. Yeah.
But like some coaches, like for example Allegri. If you watched Allegri as a player, he was a maverick of a player. He was flamboyant. He would do spectacular stuff, low percentage stuff. Take long shots and do chips from 35 yards out. And he was a bit of a floater of a player and a player that he never would have picked in his own team. And then he'd become a defensive coach. So. And then but then sometimes it goes the other way as well. Sometimes you get coaches who are a little bit defensive, but then they become, very attacking coaches. Yeah. So it can go both ways.
Yeah, it can. It absolutely can. It's an interesting one. I don't know who surprised me or who I'm surprised hasn't become a coach yet. I am a little bit surprised that not a single one out of Italy's big stars attacking stars of the 2000s, not a single one became a coach, like a top level coach. Filippo Inzaghi is the closest one, but he's not really a top level coach. But not look at
Totti, Vieri,
no Baggio, no Vieri, no Totti, no none of them.
Yeah.
That surprised me. I thought at least.
I don't know if I'm surprised, but it's an interesting observation. I don't know whether Totti.
But if you look at it, the 2000
was never coach material.
No, but listen, one thing though, the 2016 that won the World Cup hasn't produced a single top quality coach. Cannavaro, Nesta, Inzaghi, Totti, Del Piero, Toni, Perotta.
Gattuso and Grosso probably the
the jury's still out on Grosso.
They're probably the best of them. Yeah.
But that's so surprising that not a single one of the 2006 World Cup winning team has become a top coach.
Yeah,
it's really
especially as Lippi was the manager, and many of Lippi's Juventus team in the great team in the 90s did become top managers. So that's strange, isn't it?
Yeah. None of them. It's weird. It's really weird. Pirlo, none of them. Zambrotta, not a single one. Not a single one to this day. Weird one. Next question. Magnus Kaufman says, now that Napoli looks to trigger the extension of Anguissa, an option until 28, how important is Anguissa to the Napoli midfield? I saw that Real Betis is looking at Mandragora, but Fiorentina wants to extend his contract. Nima, you've been a big fan of Mandragora for some time now. When did he first catch your eye? What did you like most about his game? And also, one last old-school question. Carlo, how did you rate the 90s Juve centre-back duo of Montero and Ferrara?
Oh, brilliant. They were absolutely fantastic, both of them. I mean, proper defenders. The defenders that we just don't have nowadays. You know, they could man mark. They were tough as nails, but they were brilliant readers of the game. They had fantastic brains, you know, and just complete centre backs. We just don't have those kind of defenders now. Everyone's all zonal but they could play that way. They could do both, Ferrara and Montero. They could, but yeah, I mean, Montero more of a hard man. I think he had the record for number of red cards for a while in Serie. I'm not sure if he still has that, but brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah. As for, let's see, what was his other question?
Mandragora.
Mandragora. I liked him in Serie B for Pescara. He was an interesting one, and I thought was an interesting player there. But then he was at Juve. I think Marotta was there when he was at Juve as well. It was back and forth, and I really liked. But yeah, it was at Pescara. I really liked him.
He's got a great left foot on him, but he's one of those players that, you know, probably not at the level to be at a top club or an Italy national team, but he's somebody that, you know, for a Europa League team is a very, very serviceable player, and he has his qualities. He has weapons.
He has moments, exactly. He has weapons that can come out in moments of magic. He's a moments player, but he lacks the consistency.
He's a wonderful left foot. Has a great shot on him. Great long shot. You know, acrobatic goals as well. You know, he's a good player. He's a good player.
And as for Anguissa, how important he is to that Napoli midfield under Conte, I'd say he's almost fundamentally important. Like, he's the first name on the team sheet. Like, for me, under Conte. I mean, you look at Conte, that Conte midfield, you think McTominay and Anguissa, like the way that they work together is just imperative.
I think all three of them are pretty irreplaceable, to be honest. They all bring something that's irreplaceable. Then De Bruyne's there as well now, which adds an interesting dynamic on. But you know, you need players. But you know, when we had Vincenzo Credendino on, you know, he explained the situation very well. Like, Napoli prepared in case Anguissa left, but they'll be happy if Anguissa stays. So they're prepared if he goes, but they would obviously love him to stay because they realise he's still a very important player. So I think that Napoli have played this pretty well. I think they've prepared for this summer really well, and I think it'd be great if he could stay for at least one more year and have him, because I still think he's got at least one more big year in him.
I agree 100%. 100%. I think he's a fantastic player, and I think he's a Conte midfielder as well. And the everything that he provides just gives balance, which allows McTominay and the others to do what they do. He does work in the quiet that not a lot of people notice and register, and then he also scored important goals as well. Now, I think he's the most fundamental player for Conte. And we got another question from Jamie Drum. He says, with Al Hilal going deep at the Club World Cup, are there any players from the Saudi league that you take for your own clubs, Juventus and Inter? Yes, I take Sergej Milinkovic-Savic in a heartbeat. I love him. What about you? Who would you take for Juve? Would you take Milinkovic-Savic?
From the Saudi league?
Yeah.
Not now. No, he's too old now.
Cancelo?
He's too old now. So Cancelo's too old. I don't know. I would have taken John Duran, but I think that's gone through now to Fenerbahce. I would have taken John Duran, but now I don't know who's really left in the Saudi league. To be honest with you, yeah, I wouldn't take Milinkovic-Savic or I'm just trying to think who's at Al Hilal. They had a good Club World Cup. Who's in Inzaghi's team?
Well,
Koulibaly,
Milinkovic-Savic, Cancelo, Malcolm. No, for me, it's Milinkovic-Savic. I love Sergej Milinkovic-Savic.
Yeah,
I think he's a fantastic
player. I wouldn't take any of them. I'll take John Duran because I think that's a loan move to start with. So let's go Duran.
Cool. Next question. Yihuan Zhang says, hi, Carlo Nima. I wanted to make a comment rather than ask a question. I just listened to the latest pod, and as a Del Piero fan, the question about him interested me the most. While I think Carlo's comment about underpar performances of the national team is generally fair, there are two things I disagree with. One, Del Piero's performance in the 98 World Cup was affected by an injury he picked up during the Champions League final that year. It wasn't that serious injury he had that later that year, but it was not just a minor one. In fact, some people say he rushed his recovery due to the World Cup, which comprised the overall result of the recovery to some extent. And two, the goal he scored against Germany in 2006 was certainly not decisive, but it's also more than just a hollow goal. You never know if Germany was going to get one more chance to attack. It's the referee's discretion, and Germany was the hosting country. And anything can happen from that extra play. Also, by winning that match that way, I think it boosted the team's morale and confidence in a significant way, which presumably better positioned Italy for the finals. My opinions may be biased to some extent, but I feel obliged to speak up for my lifetime idol here. Do you want to comment on that?
You go first, Nema. Sorry, I was just...
Look, I think... I remember 98. Cesare Maldini gave him the number 10 as a sign of respect. I think I would have preferred Italy to start with Baggio throughout that tournament as opposed to Del Piero. I get why, and just rest Del Piero until the latter stages. I think they kind of forced Del Piero back, which I think is wrong. I would have preferred Baggio, and it was Vieri's break as well, and the understanding that Baggio and Vieri had was beautiful as well. So I would have preferred to have started Baggio and have Del Piero.
Baggio did start. Baggio started the first game and
Chile,
the second
I remember,
game. Baggio started the first game against Chile, where he was unbelievable in that game.
The past,
one of the most underrated assists of all time. Assist for Vieri. No one ever talks about that assist. That's one of the greatest assists ever.
Breathtaking. No, I mean, I would have
touch assist as well.
Game. Yeah, first touch assist. Which is
the first touch assist, because Baggio holds the record for maybe the best first touch assist ever, and the best first touch ever for the goal he scored against Juventus when he went round Van der Sar. Like his first touch, Baggio, was just ridiculous. I mean, Baggio got injured against Cameroon, a bad injury as well. Right. Yeah. And as a result, he was playing with injury for the rest of the tournament after that.
But he did come back for the Austria game.
No, he was back, but he was carrying an injury for the rest of the tournament and still did more than Del Piero.
Yeah.
Even carrying an injury. That's the point I was about to make. So yes, you can be carrying injuries. I think Del Piero had a bit of an injury also in 96. I don't think he was fully fit at Euro 96 either, after the Champions League final, in that Champions League final, 1996 Champions League final. But yeah, I mean, there's always going to be things like that. I mean, Baggio, how many injuries did Baggio have in his career? I mean, in 94, he was playing with injury as well, including the final. Yeah.
was only because of him that Italy even reached the final. And I also think it's so wrong that that miss against Brazil has become the symbol of Italy losing that final, because I remember that
only by prem faces. Can I just say that it's one of the most prem face things ever. This was like the prem face quotes of the mid-90s. Was, oh, Roberto Baggio, he missed the penalty, he can't take penalties. Oh, Roberto Baggio, he cost Italy the World Cup. That was
that penalty shootout, Italy were already down. Like Massaro, Baresi, they already missed them.
Absolutely. Baggio, even if he'd have scored, Brazil would have had a penalty to win it.
Yeah. Exactly. So I just think it's so unfair that's.
But the only people that say that are prem faces. I'm just going to put it out.
But it's become a thing in Italy as well. You notice it, Baggio himself, when he talked. It's become as if that's been the symbol.
No, but I mean, blaming Baggio for Italy not winning the World Cup because he missed the penalty. That's a prem face thing.
Yeah, that's true. But it wouldn't have mattered, because I mean the others missed, and it was weird for me. That to me has always been a weird thing, to be honest. I've never understood it at all. But yeah. Right. Anyway, next question. Stephen Barr says, "Ciao guys, hope you're both doing well. Just wanted to ask, are there any players from the 3 promoted teams that Serie A this season that you're particularly excited to watch? For me, it's Cristian Volpato at Sassuolo and Giacomo Gabbiani at Cremonese. If he gets a chance to make a senior debut, what about you guys? Any players promoted this season that you're from the teams that are promoted that you're interested in seeing?"
Well, you're the Serie B.
Well, look, for me, he didn't get promoted with Spezia, but Francesco Pio Esposito is who I'm most excited about. He is the player that I've been ranting and raving all last season in the Serie B. He's the one that I was hoping Spezia get promoted so that he could stay at Spezia, but then he showed in the Club World Cup, or he showed signs that maybe he could actually do something at Inter. We'll have to wait and see until pre-season starts. All I will tell you is this. I want Francesco Pio Esposito to play regularly in the Serie A this season. I don't know where that is, if it's at Inter or where it is, but I need him to play, because this kid is special. He is the one. I can't even remember the last time an Inter youth team player excited me this much. I can't even tell you the last time I was this excited by an Italian young player. Tonali was the last one that I was this excited about when he was 19. He is special, and for me, this could be the beginning of something unique. The fact that the way that he has managed to build up his physique without sacrificing everything else. In fact, it's improved everything else. The fact that he's so concrete and resolute in the penalty area, and that he's such a big piece as well. And his mentality. This for me, it's Pio Esposito. This is the player I am the most excited from all of last season in the Serie B. And I don't know where that is, if it's at Inter or elsewhere, but what I do care about and what I demand is that he plays regularly. I don't care where it is. I care that he plays regularly and that he's allowed to score, allowed to develop and play regularly in the Serie A this season. That's the player I'm the most excited to see. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't watch as much Serie B as you, but I mean, obviously Sassuolo were too good for the league, and so it's nice to have some of the players back there. I mean, Volpato is an exciting one because he's young, but it's good to have Berardi back, Loriente as well. I mean, I think these are players that are Serie A players, so it would be good to have them there. I mean, the Esposito, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of the Spezia players. I mean, the Esposito brothers, including the other Spezia guy, Salvatore, he should be playing in Serie A. Like, he's way too good for Serie B. I always say, when he was with the under 21s, he was playing with like Rovella and some of the others, and he was always the best centre midfielder for the under 21s. Like, there's a player there, I think. Yeah.
No, look, it's that's fair. But for me, it's all about Francesco Pio Esposito. It's all about him. And people who listen to this pod and have heard me rant and rave about him for about all of last season. So I'm really excited about him, and I think he could be the answer to to Italy's number 9 woes moving forward for the next decade. If they take care of him properly and allow him to grow, he is a truly special player. Right, a last question comes in from CJ Barile. He says, "How the hell can Denzel Dumfries leave Inter for 25 million euros?" Well, there's a little. It's not exactly like that. So basically, when he signed his contract extension with Inter last season, one of the negotiation things was that they allow him to that there's a clause that if a club comes in and pays it, that he could leave Inter, and it's only valid until the 15th of July. And that's at 25 million euros. And I think given that Inter bought him for 12.5 million euros, they double their money minimum, and they set July 15th as the date. After that, it's no longer valid. So that was a negotiation tactic that Marotta had to employ. So I can't be too critical of him for that, given that they only bought him for 12.5 million, and this doubles their money. But is he worth 25 million? No, he's worth much more. But they needed to get that contract extension over the line, and sometimes, in a negotiation, you have to give and receive. It's a negotiation, so I can't be too critical to Marotta over that, given the situation.
Yeah, I mean, we're not privy to how the negotiations started and ended, but it was obviously ended. I mean, it obviously got to a stage where, yeah, they didn't want to lose him for free, and they were forced into a corner. And yeah, could they have dealt with it? I mean, my opinion on Denzel Dumfries. I think he's been criminally underrated throughout his time at Inter, and it should never have got to that stage. Once he got to that stage, yeah, they probably didn't have a choice, but it shouldn't have got there. It shouldn't have got to there where you're, because for me, he's been the best player in the league in his position. Di Lorenzo is the only other person that can challenge him for the last 4 years, even when he was, being mocked. So yeah, either sell him or play him. But end of the day, he's given great service to Inter. And if they have to sell him for 25 million, they've still got 4 great years out of him, and they'll still make a profit. So it's not a disaster. But if we're looking at his standing in the world, in his position, 25 million is just ridiculous, compared to the costs of players in his position or in any other position, and how much they're going to go for. And that's where obviously there's a bit of a frustration, just also for Italian teams as a whole, that we don't get the right value for our players compared to, what we see elsewhere. And I think a lot of teams need to do better than that.
Look, yeah, you could, but I think when it comes to that situation in and of itself, I think Inter had to get that negotiation over the line, and they had to get that contract extension sorted, and they also needed to address the issue because Denzel Dumfries was never going to stay at Inter for more than 4 or 5 years. I think that was pretty much when they bought him from PSV Eindhoven, that was pretty much that was common knowledge. He was going to stay at Inter for a couple of years, and then he was going to go to the Premier League. Nobody expected him to have the development that he had the last 2 seasons, especially this last season where he was outstanding. He was Inter's best player, most consistent player, and delivered in important moments. He was, his mental strength has always been there. He's mentally incredibly strong. He's a leader, and he showed that at Inter this last season. He consistently showed that, and that's why he was so he was so loved by Inter fans as well, because he led by example. He bled for the shirt. He gave everything for the shirt, and he showed real character. So I think that aspect of it is one thing, but as for the actual 25 million, 30 million, I mean, look, I think, yeah, everything is relative. It depends on how some players go for. Lloyd Kelly went for 25 million pounds, but whatever. But at the same time, I think given the state of negotiations when he joined for 12.5, and given how it was so obvious that he was just going to stay at Inter for a couple of years before moving on, and he's always been very professional at Inter. And I think when they were negotiating, they were like, well, we don't want to lose you for free. And he was like, well, you bought me for 12.5. double your money, that's 25, that's a good place to do. And they're like, and then Inter probably went, well, okay, that can't be valid the entire summer. It expires on the 15th of July. And then everyone has felt like, well, that's fair, because then the agent can push to Barcelona, City, or wherever he wants to go if there is interest. We should note, however, that to this day, no club, even though it's still just 25 million euros, no one has activated that clause, even though it's a low price. And I think there's a reason for that. And the reason for that is what the criticism I've had of Denzel Dumfries, and that is he's not very technically gifted. And I think that's a problem. I think when you play Denzel Dumfries, you essentially cannot build play down his right flank. You can't use him in build-up. He doesn't have those tools. What he's really good at is attacking the space, overloading the space, attacking him from the wide area aerially, because he's very strong in the air, and a character. And in terms of leadership, in terms of his mental strength, these are things he provides. But if you play Denzel Dumfries, you essentially cannot build using that right-hand side, because he's not good at beating his man. He's not good at dribbling. He's not good at, technically he has limitations, and that's just a fact. That's just who he is.
He found a way around that. He pushed him up as a right winger in the build-up.
Exactly.
And so he found a way around it. But that's where your good manager makes the most out of your strengths, and makes a difference, but makes the most out of a player's strengths, and he minimizes a player's weaknesses. And Dumfries' strengths, far outweighed those weaknesses when used correctly. And that was always my point. Like, I always said, is he the best? I wouldn't have swapped Dumfries with any other right back in Serie A. Maybe Di Lorenzo, you could argue, during the Napoli season, title winning season, but Di Lorenzo has plenty of weaknesses himself too. So I think if you ask any manager in Serie A, which right back do you want? They would all say, and this was even during his so-called lower trades, Dumfries would always be the number one. So I think that's always, that's not a bad position to be in, whether he's got weaknesses or not.
No, it isn't. But it's similar to Dimarco as well on the other side, because Dimarco's got lots of deficiencies as well, defensively in particular. He's technically better than Dumfries, but that's the thing.
Dimarco's an interesting one. I'm glad you brought him up, because he's gone down in my estimations a hell of a lot in the last 6 months. And I was always one of the ones, like me and you were kind of defending him for a long time.
I said his left foot is a cheat code, and I still think his left foot is a cheat code. He's got one of the best left feet in all of world football.
Oh my God, he's been unwatchable. The last 6 months, he's been unwatchable. He's been costing into time and time again. So I think there's a question mark on him as well. Like, it's a difficult one with Dimarco.
No, but my point is, like, for me, what I was impressed, what I was always impressed, if you go back and check what I used to say, I said, look, his left foot is a cheat code, because his crosses, his corners, his shooting, he has unbelievable shooting technique. And that's why I wanted to see him at Inter, because also that he grew up at Inter, he's from Milan, he's an Interista, and that's always good for a club to have that kind of local connection. But his specific strengths is that left foot. Other than that, he wasn't very good at. He's not very fast. His stamina is that of a 50-year-old smoker. He can't dribble. He can't. He's decent technically, but he doesn't offer very much other than that. And sometimes positionally, he's brain dead. He loses concentration, like we saw in the Champions League final, where he just was in no man's land. His brain wasn't switched on. And I think him and Dumfries, in very many ways, mirror each other with that. And in Simone Inzaghi, one of his great strengths, one of the things that speaks to the strengths of Simone Inzaghi as a coach is exactly that: his ability to get the best out of what was presented to him. Whether it was Federico Di Marco, whether it was Denzel Dumfries, whether it was Francesco Acerbi, whether it was Henrik Mkhitaryan, whether it was Edin Dzeko, although I think Edin Dzeko is the best player, together with Mkhitaryan, in terms of the quality of the player than all of these guys. But I'm talking about where they were in their careers. There were deficiencies there. All of these things, Inzaghi was able to get the best out of. Hakan Çalhanoğlu is another brilliant example. Hakan Çalhanoğlu would never have played at that level under any other coach than Simone Inzaghi. Simone Inzaghi tailor-made a regista role for him and got him to play at that high level. So it's I think it speaks to the tactical genius that is Simone Inzaghi, and why I'm very, very worried now that he's gone, because there's a lot of players there that I wonder how they're going to function under Christian Kivu. And I think maybe it would be the best thing to do to sell them, because the deficiencies aren't going to go away. Simone Inzaghi was able to mitigate for them by creating a system. And we saw that in the second star, the 20th Scudetto run, where they were just unplayable. They were like a machine. And I'm not sure Christian Kivu is of the right pedigree as a coach to be able to do that and mask that. But we'll have to wait and see. Right, those are all the questions we had sent in this week from you guys. Please do make sure to send in your questions via Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, email, but preferably via DM on Patreon. We'll be back later in the week for the Milan Mercato deep dive. Next week we'll be back to hopefully regular programming with a Mercato deep dive on the Monday and then the Q&A on a Wednesday. So you've got about 10 days to send in your questions to us for patrons and YouTube members, everyone who supports the show. So thank you so much for doing that, and also make sure to send in your questions. And until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. Ciao, ciao.